Years after the fact, maybe some justice. A jury convicting Ahmed Abu Khatala. He's been considered the mastermind behind the Benghazi attacks. Catherine Harridge with more on what went down today. Catherine.
Well, thank you, Neil. Within the last hour, a jury here in Washington, D.C. has found the Benghazi suspect guilty on only 3 of the 15 counts that were brought against him in connection to the 2012 terrorist attack that killed those 4 Americans, including Ambassador Chris Stevens. Abu Khatala was brought to the United States in 2014, and he was described by the Obama administration as a central player, if not the mastermind, of the attack. But the jury disagreed. They did not find him guilty on the most serious charges of murder. They found him guilty of providing support, material support to a terrorist organization. In other words, participating in the attack, also destroying U.S. federal government property. In this case, that would be the compound as well as the CIA annex, and the discharging and the carrying of an automatic weapon. So this is a major setback for the government because he was portrayed as someone who was so central to the attack that killed those 4 Americans. There were really 2 big issues that the prosecution had to try and overcome. One is that they relied very heavily on a paid informant to track down Abu Khatala. He was paid $7 million for that, and to also provide testimony. And the defense said that he clearly had a financial incentive to fabricate or sort of bolster the case against Khatala. And really, secondly, it was a really hard case because the FBI was never able to secure the crime scene in Benghazi. They never secured the compound. Therefore, they were never able to rely on solid forensic evidence. They had to rely on the paid informant. And today, a Washington jury said it was simply not enough to convict him in the murder of those 4 Americans back in 2012. Final point, another Benghazi suspect has been brought to the Washington, D.C. area in the last few months. And the question now is whether this may in any way change the way in which that prosecution proceeds, and whether the government decides to file an appeal on some of the charges in this case, Neil.
Just to be clear, he would not be facing the death penalty regardless.
That's correct. Yeah, the most serious charges, he was found not guilty. So the death of the 4 Americans, he was found guilty of lesser charges, so supporting the terrorist attack. But really, the jury found that he was a fringe player or a minor player. And in fact, the surveillance video from the compound showed that he arrived after the fact.
Thank you, Catherine,
very
much.
You're welcome.
Catherine Harridge.